Hi, I'm Karen Large from Flute in a Few, and I'm also a flute professor at Florida State University. This is the teaching video for the 2020-2021 Florida All-State 11th and 12th grade Symphonic Band Piccolo excerpt. Before you watch, take a second to visit fluteinaFew.com to get the handout that goes with this excerpt. I've also got a performance video of this excerpt, and both links are below. Disclaimer: the ideas presented here belong to me alone, and they don't represent the Florida Music Educators Association. This is a bit of a challenging technical excerpt for piccolo. So I think learning the notes is kind of step one for this one. It's in A major, so warm up on your A major scale and arpeggio. For this, I recommend starting at 40, and you might have already been looking at this for a week or more. I still recommend bringing it back down to 40, making sure every articulation, every dynamic, every breath is in place, and then slowly bumping it up. A lot of students with this one are going to find themselves single tonguing until they get to a tempo in which they cannot single tongue it, and then they have to start all over again. So determine what your tonguing pattern is going to be, determine all of your dynamics, get it really slow at 40 is the 8th note, and then slowly bump it up to 120, which is the tempo that I recommend. You can go faster, you can go slower. So this will help you develop muscle memory. And I have included in the handout a tempo chart that you can check off your tempo each day. This is super handy. I do this in my own practice. Print it, use it, you'll love it. This excerpt has no written dynamics, but that doesn't mean that you should play without them. You must add dynamics to help shape the phrases. And so I have some suggestions for you. Again, they're written very specifically in the handout, but if you're just following along in the music, basically there's a sequence from measure 9 through 11 with those A's. So I grow gradually through measure 9, 10, then 11, and then I come down at the end of 12. Then again, I start soft at 13, get louder at 14, get louder at 15, come down at the end of 16. And then one more time, I start soft at 17, grow louder at 18, grow louder at 19, and then this time, instead of pulling back, I keep it loud and I just push to the end, especially because it goes low. Those notes are kind of hard to hear anyway. I mentioned in the beginning that if you're someone who intends to multiple tongue for this excerpt, then you need to start doing that at a slow tempo. If you're able to single tongue triplets at 120, then single tongue the excerpt, that's fine. And I have included in the handout the tonguing pattern that I use for multiple tonguing. So looking at the first measure, which is measure 9, I go ta, 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 ka, ta, ka, ta. And then I repeat it every time. So most of you play piccolo in marching band. Some of you play piccolo in concert ensembles, but I would be willing to guess that piccolo is not your main instrument. Some piccolo tips for all of my friends out there who are not primary piccolo players. To me, the most important thing is clarity of sound on every single note. If you hear yourself crack a note, stop and fix it. Don't say, oh yeah, I know I cracked that, I'll fix it next time. No, chances are it's a habit. And cracking on piccolo is, like breathing air. It happens all the time. Keep your finger movements as small as possible, which is actually pretty easy to do on piccolo because the keys are so close together. But keep those finger movements small. Adjust your embouchure to be like an octave up on the flute. For example, if I were to play this F, that's at the top line of the treble staff. My embouchure should be like how I play 3rd octave F on flute. So not the one on the staff, but the one above that. That's how I get a really good sound. Most people are too loose with their piccolo embouchures. So just think an octave up, and that helps me. Also, you might want to adjust the placement of the piccolo on your bottom lip. I know I have somewhat full lips, And so I place the piccolo just a little higher on my lip than I do flute, and that really helps with aiming the airstream correctly. Breathing and taking time. You should always have 20% of your air left in your lungs when you go to take your next breath. If you don't have 20%, stop, treat it like it's 10 mistakes. Go back, actually usually you have to go back 2 breaths in order to have that cumulative effect. But go back and then play through your phrase again, and if you don't have 20%, go back and determine, can I save my air in a different way? Can I use it in a different way? Do I need an extra breath? Make sure you've got 20% of your air left, because if you don't, your support begins to collapse and your tone, intonation, and dynamic suffer. I think all of the breaths are good in this excerpt. Sometimes I pull back a bit before the breath in 17 to make it a little more dramatic and musical, or you can kind of just push straight through. Either is fine. I find myself often skipping the breath in 13, but it's a good breath if you want to choose it. Don't forget to engage your support muscles. This makes the breath go farther. So speaking of support, what is it? Support is the engagement of your abdominal muscles, obliques, intercostals, and back muscles, and it allows you to have a consistent airstream through all registers and dynamic ranges. It's incredibly important, and flutists tend to not support on low notes and also soft notes, but they should support all of the time. I like to think of it as a switch. So turn your support on before you start playing, and do not allow it to turn itself off except briefly when you're breathing. Support is when you engage those muscles that I talked about, and you can feel it. And you'll notice that if you've never played with consistent support, this will be work for you, okay? It's worth it. You will sound so much better. Mental training. Be sure to do mental training before your audition to set you up for success. So many people learn all the notes and work so hard, but if you don't mentally train, that's half the game. That's half of an audition, is how you prepare mentally for it. One of the things I like to do is think of a challenging audition. Maybe you'd have to play very early in the morning, or maybe your heart rate gets really fast. Maybe you won't be able to take as deep of a breath. Try to replicate these scenarios by playing at 7 in the morning, or running some stairs before playing, or taking the piece extra slow so you can feel what it's like to run out of air. Other ways to mentally train: play for as many people as possible. The feeling of auditioning becomes more comfortable the more you do it. Record yourself and listen back objectively. So when you listen back, pretend like it's not you. Finally, develop a phrase or a mantra that reminds you of how you play when you play your best, and you might even want to write it at the top of your page. Good luck. Best wishes. Contact me if you need anything. The flutists in Florida are talented and motivated, and you're going to do a great job.